Okay, this video is going to cover hexadecimal conversion using a weighting method, not a method or procedure that I usually use. It requires a calculator. Um, I'll use a method that goes through another numbering system, but at least I want to document this and show you that it's there. So if we on the left hand side, once again, we have our chart. When I put a chart up, I'm probably going to need this. On the left hand side, we have hex digits 0 through F, all the digits available. And on the right hand side, we have the decimal equivalent numbers for those. And we're going to use this chart as we go through here. So if we pick a hex number, let me get my pen here. And we pick a hex number 3AF. And we're going to try and find the decimal equivalent of that. Now, remember, this digit position, the weight is 16 to the 0. This digit position is 16 to the 1, and this is 16 squared. And I usually have to get my calculator to do times 16. That's not I don't think when I memorized the multiplication tables when I was young, we went that high. But we have our calculator, so we can do that, and we should know how to work our calculator enough to get those values in there. So if I remember that, just like I pulled decimal numbers apart for the 10, hundreds, and thousands position, I can do the same thing here. So if I do that, this is F times 16 to the 0. The next position is A times 16 to the 1. And the most significant digit is 3 times 16 squared. And multiplication, I know is a decimal multiplication, and A isn't a digit in there, but the equivalent to A is 10, so I can rewrite this as 10 times 16 to the 1 and find a result. Same way here with F. F times 16 to the 0 is not a concept because the digit F doesn't exist, but I can change that to decimal and say this is 15 times 16 to the 1. And down here, I don't have to worry about that because I have a hex number that's in the normal decimal range. So 15 times 16 to the 0. I can put that in my calculator. I probably can work that in my head, but let's be consistent. Put it in the calculator. And we come up with an answer of 15. And 10 times 16 to the 1. Right? So 10 times 16 is 160. That's pretty easy to do in my head. 3 times 16 squared is not. And as you heard me say, I don't use this method because I have to have a calculator and it's not something that I'm used to having available, although I probably do with my cell phone. Okay, and these multiplications, what they did was they took this digit and took into account the weight of where it was sitting, and they multiplied those out to get all these things. And if I add all these together now, I should get my correct conversion result if I did things right. So I go to my calculator and do 15 plus 160 plus 768. I could do it manually. I don't know if I would get mistakes or not. I know how to do it pretty well manually, but 943, and my conversion is complete. So with this procedure, all you have to do is take each of the digits, do the weights, do the multiplications, and do the additions to add them all together and get it. Now, if that procedure sounds familiar, you were drilled with it on tens, hundreds, thousands. Those are 10 to the 0, 10 to the 1, 10 to the 2, and the decimal number system. So the procedure is not new. The numbers that you're using are, and powers of 16 are a little tougher to work with. So let's erase that. We got our procedure established. Let's pick something just a little bit more involved. Since this method conversion uses the calculator. Some people actually like it better, but I do this based on likelihood of availability until, you know, when I'm going to be charged for doing this and how I'm going to do it. But we'll do the hex number 2C1B in this case. So once again, B times 16 to the 0. I better rewrite that, right? Because B times anything is not a good concept. So that's my first digit equivalent. The next one is going to be 1 times 16 to the 1. I don't have to do any conversion there. I can put that in my calculator. The next one is going to be C times 16 to the 2, because that's the weight. Multiplying anything by C is not going to work too well unless I have the right calculator. And even then, multiplication is probably not an operation that would be available. And then the most significant digit is 2 times 16 to the 3. So now I got this set up to pound things out on my calculator. 11 times 16 to the 0. And once again, as I told you, I can do that in my head because 16 to the 0 is 1. But we'll do it with the calculator to maintain consistency. 1 times 16 to the first power. We can do that one in our head. 1 times 16. And that comes out there. So 12 times 16 squared. I can't do that one in my head. 12 times 16 to the second power, and it looks like that comes out to 3072 if I hit my calculator correctly. And 2 times 16 to the third, certainly can't do that one in my head either. If I thought about that one a little bit, I might have known that answer. And I'm going to add all those together. So you can see this process takes a little bit of work. You got to know how to use your calculator. Electronic students should know how to use your calculator good enough to enter all these questions, these problems in. And I come up with 11,291 base 10. And earlier I did the conversion in my calculator directly using the conversion method. I'll show that in another video. So that's my check. Once again, don't use this method too often, but it works. And there's no new procedure to learn. It's very consistent with what you learned in decimal numbers with tens, hundreds, and thousands, and converting numbers and saying them out. You're just not used to it with powers of 16. But hopefully that helps. Not much to remember, just a little bit to practice. Good luck.